Jazz. It's such a broad word. Say it and everyone has a variation. Say it and everyone has a starting point where they came into it. Say it and everyone will have a different genre that's or an affection for it. Say it, some will squint. Say it because it needs to be said. It's one of the most important forms of music that was ever created. It is one of the most ever changing, reinvented, and always progressive elements of the music multiverse. It's even been one of the pieces of the fiber and fabric of that tunnel of music's time. Ooh, that music multiverse, as I love to call it. Sophisticated or free, tightly wound or improv pressed, solo, duo, trio, quartet, quintet, all the way to 17-piece big band orchestra. None of it is dead, and it is here in your ear instead of HERE forever. It's a bad thing in Zoom. You can't, It will reach out today, someday, to take your mind. It'll take your soul and maybe even your heart. Sometimes it, can take a lifetime to finally fall into that temptation. And for others, it's a lifetime ride kind of filled with an infinite amount of possibilities, journeys, experiences that will forever change how you listen to all music. This is Of Sound Minds. There's nothing quite like jazz. And, but in order to do this, you can't trust me. You trust a professional, a budding professional, all international spokesperson at the helm of the jazz guitar. I remember being in France one night and I saw a billboard for a young artist that was gaining some acclaim. Not a household name yet, but he went. We went anyway. About 100 people were there. Very, if you've been to France, the buildings aren't huge. The jazz clubs. It's going to be a brick wall. You're going to be mortared in, and you're going to feel like if there's a fire, you're all going to die. That's how tight the setting is, right? The chairs are jammed in. So that was Kurt Rosenwinkel. Hear me now and play it again on your Jazz Love and Stereo. The young man joining me today on Of Sound Minds, Danish guitarist and composer, currently based in Copenhagen. He graduated from the Conservatory of Amsterdam, where he studied under the prominent names such as Jesse Van Rutler, was it Reiner Bass?
Rainier Bass.
Bass. And Peter Bernstein, while also receiving private lessons from Jakob Bro. He's played style blends that international jazz influences he's absorbed at the Conservatory with Nordic sensibility. And then, something way more. He's a third-generation composer. His father, Jakob, his grandfather, Tony, both renowned for their melodies set to Danish poetry. This is a legacy, but it's versatility, it's imagination, and it's an unreal weaving together of those lyrical threads, both in his playing and his compositions. He has composed over 70 pieces and released 6 international acclaimed albums. His Red Gazelle Trio album that just released blew us away this year, as well as Unknown Sundays, which featured another venture of his called Vulture Forest. Not to mention, there's 2 or 3 others bearing the Vejslev name. I fear I would butcher some of them, so I'm going to let him talk about them when it comes to that time. His music has received critical acclaim and international radio play, and he has performed across Denmark, Scandinavia, Europe, and China. The States, maybe. I don't know. We'll try to coerce him over here. He is featured in Jazz Guitar Today, and to be featured in that, you don't pay for that. That comes, This is Kristoffer Vejslev. I can't thank you enough for doing this and being on our little Real Music Appreciation channel.
Thanks so much for having me, and I'm so glad to be here.
All right. So to get you kind of comfortable, right? So on that opening, as one of the most important forms of creative music, do you agree there's nothing quite like jazz?
Yes, I mean, I love jazz so much, but I mean, I love all kinds of music, and I think that's like it's an interesting question because I think what I love about jazz is kind of its openness. so you get to sort of get all the genres at once. Sometimes it feels, like there's jazz that incorporates rock and folk and classical music and rap, and it's kind of like limitless. So that's like that aspect for me is what really like gets me super excited. And then the other aspect is like the improvisation, that it's never the same. Every time you play something, it's never going to be the same as the way you played it before. And that's first, it's really fun to listen to that. You can sort of feel how it develops in real time, and it's also really fun um, being on the opposite side when you're sort of like doing it as well, that you don't know what is going to happen, and that makes it always fun to do. And yeah, I think for me, mm, it's the thing that you like you don't have to choose, one genre. You can get a bit of everything, and that's also like how it all started out. um,
Yeah. I love
and
how
it
you
has
say
like,
that you never know where it's going, and
yeah.
I think that's the form of music that it is. And I think that's what separates it from any other form. You mean
Mm,
classical? You're pretty much there's this. I don't know. They're trying to move it. People like Olafur Arnalds are trying to move it, but yeah, it's you never know where it's going to go depending on who you're with, and that improv
yeah,
angle. I mean, you can be as technical as all you want to be, but that improv angle leads to so much.
definitely. And I think also, like, just for people listening that maybe are not excited about jazz, what I would say is that it has existed for like 100 years. So there's just so much music. It's like it's such a big genre, so it can really almost, it's kind of like it can be anything, depending on when you listen, and what musicians you listen to. So for someone who loves rock or something, there are definitely albums that sort of like, is it rock, is it jazz, like you can the way into jazz is just finding like the genre that you like, and then sort of exploring jazz that uses those elements. um,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah. So obviously I come in, Beyond Your Radio comes in at the oh my gosh, Red Gazelle Trio. I don't say this that often, but I'll say thank you to the algorithm for kind of finding my twisted jazz fusion and avant-garde habits, and it made this connection for me. And that we reviewed On a Human Level just about a month or so ago. Rave reviews, and that seems to be the consensus in the entire jazz community. Here's just a taste. The Danish trio arrives with a contemporary jazz piece brimming with dynamism. Fans will surely appreciate the creative boldness of this work, full of twists and turns. That's from Canada. A sonic voyage that transcends boundaries, blending virtuosic musicianship with inventive jazz elements to create a truly mesmerizing and unforgettable experience. That was Last Day Deaf, the US. This is the kind of music that can give you goosebumps and make you reflect, immersing you in your own thoughts and memories. That's out of Germany. Gracefully powerful on a human level is an album to be thankful for. That from the UK. With On a Human Level, the Red Gazelle Trio demonstrates how good they are at pushing the boundaries of Nordic jazz. That also from the UK, from Jazz Reviews. An absolute must for those who appreciate the fusion of jazz and Americana in the style of Bill Frisell. Well, they're saying Bill Frisell. When that gets name dropped, that's not, they don't just throw that around. And On a Human Level is just a different, darling, intimate, and reflective Nordic jazz experience. Hey, wait a minute, that came from me.
Yeah, and thank you
So
for that.
tell,
I was very
yeah.
happy.
So tell me about it. Tell me about this. It's the third record, I believe. You gentlemen have been doing this since 2014.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
Yes, where to begin? I mean, this album is, of course, all the albums we did have a special place in my heart, but this one is something slightly different because, first of all, we have two guest musicians that I really, really love their music, and also amazing people. And so it was the first time to sort of venture out of the trio format, and also um, the process for making this album was so long.
Oh, was
It
it?
took a long time. Yeah, I mean, like compared to the other albums, which were very sort of like, oh, hey, let's do it, and then we sort of just went with it. There was a couple of reasons for that. I think one of the main ones was that we had like all the music ready, and then we had to the drummer, he was studying at the Conservatory at the time, and he did like a half a year studying like African rhythms in Mali, so we had to postpone it, and
Okay.
then um,
In
and
Mali.
before that in Mali, yeah, exactly, yeah.
Okay, so that Tinarwin, right? Out of there, out of Mali, the
Yeah.
jazz rock. Oh my God, they're amazing. Yeah, Daniel Lanois, I
Mm,
think, got involved in their last record too. Okay, so wow.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah. And and then but so he came back, and like we're like ready, let's do this. And then what happened was my wife was pregnant at the time, so we had like a whole date lined up, and we had gotten grants so we could have our two guests on. And then I was maybe overly optimistic, but we had set the recording time to like a month or 3 weeks before he was due. And then of course he couldn't wait to enter this world, so he came like 4 days before we were supposed to record.
And the
And
money already
then
set aside for that. That must have been a little difficult.
no, but the nice thing was we got the grant, so we had like the money. I think we
Okay,
had
so you
to
didn't
write
have
to
to. You
them,
didn't already
and like
purchase it. Okay.
no, that was good. We had access to like some cheap places where we could record. So yeah, like you said, we hadn't already purchased it, and thankfully it wasn't like, oh, we pay these two guest players for the day, and then if we can't do it that day, money is gone and we have to pay them anyway. So they were very nice about that. And then we postponed the album again, and then it was the bass player's wife who was pregnant. And then she was this time we were like, okay, we're not gonna make the same mistake. We're gonna record it like a month before, or was it like 5 weeks or something. And then his son, who's perfectly fine, really sweet boy, but he was born very early, so
Wow.
again we had to move it. Um, so this whole process, like we were ready to record it, and then we had to add like a year and a half um, of time to before we could actually record the album. And I think what happened because of that was first in the beginning we managed to get funding so we could make it with these guest musicians, and then after that we just had a long period of um, where especially me and the bass player were trying out all this stuff, and we really had time to sort of talk about very small details that we hadn't been able to do in the past. I mean, there are a lot of examples of this, but like one is that there's a lot of like acoustic guitar work on the album, and that was all recorded before we actually recorded. So we had like because I was able to borrow this quite amazing acoustic guitar from this Danish guitar builder who's quite famous here. Who is not with us anymore, unfortunately. But we had like a day to record that, and then we could use that so that when we got to record the album, we could focus on all the stuff with the two horns. And I mean, there are a lot of things to this story. I'm sorry, like for not how do you say, time wise, I'm gonna kind of jump everywhere because
Sure.
I keep
That's not a
remembering
problem. I
stuff.
understand.
Yeah. That was like one aspect which I think did something good for the album, and another one was that I had been writing this music over like a really long period of time. Some of it was like right before Corona, and then some of it was, I guess, in 2021 because it was extended, and then suddenly I had more time to write, and that also kind of like created an album where there were like a lot of really different emotions because the songs that I wrote during Corona were pretty sad things, which I mean, also I kind of sometimes associate that with some of the most beautiful stuff on the album, but like those two things are sometimes connected for me a bit, and
That's why they call
but
it
it
the
would,
sad truth. You know,
yeah, the sad truth. But I also have it. I mean, like I'm gonna jump in all directions again, but sometimes also the music that can make me the most sad is if it's too happy, you know. Like I need the, because then it doesn't feel real to me in a sense, you know. It has to have
okay.
a bit of
Is
something.
that the lyrical aspect of? Because the is it the idea of lyrical, that quote that they say, is that the idea of having the instrument speak?
Yes, I mean I've thought a lot about it. I've that has one thing to do with it. I think for me, like I associate it with um, sort of like the also kind of singable melodies in a sense, like melodies that are really strong and that are packed with emotions and that could be sung in theory. So it has to do with the phrasing and stuff. Like sometimes we can do complex rhythmic stuff that goes everywhere, but maybe the rhythm of the melody is more kind of straightforward because it's like a really clear statement that is on top of all the stuff that we are doing beneath it. Um, so I think for me that's a big part of it, and we'll get to talk, I guess, maybe later about this, but also that my granddad and my father has written so many melodies for old Danish poets. So the way that they write is kind of in my head when I write my melodies as well. Going back to the creation of the album, there's a really
Oh yeah.
important part that I want to talk about as well, which is that like you had these early songs for the album that were in Corona and had this sadness, but then the other half of the album was written while my wife was pregnant, and I was, you know, like in a really great place, and I was
Uh,
so excited about being a dad, and also just it gave me like I was so inspired. I got to write a lot of the music on this little island in Denmark called Samsø that I got a grant to use, and it's like a composer's retreat, and my wife was with me there as well, and my grandfather has used the same retreat, and my dad as well. So there was like just an amazing kind of energy
wow.
when I was writing there. Just so that your viewers know that it's not just sadness in this album. There's a lot of joy, and it's kind of like these two things that create maybe like a wider dimension, at least for me, making it, yes. But
Yeah.
this other question,
The
yeah,
last song though is Vugavis. Is that, I don't know if I'm saying it right, but that's lullaby, right?
yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
And yeah, there was a lot of those. Yeah, he wasn't born, so I didn't. It didn't help him fall asleep. But I played it to him now, and it works sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah, yeah. Kids don't like to
Sometimes, yeah.
sleep. They just don't.
No, they don't. They don't.
Yeah.
So even though there's no, yeah.
Yeah. So going back, right? Your legacy in this, but aren't we supposed to rebel against our parents? I mean, so how is it you wind up continuing this legacy? I mean, sure, you hear it like when you're a kid. Like I heard Diana Ross and disco, right? And I sure as hell wasn't
Mm.
going to keep that in my listening path for the rest of my life. Is it that in your house it was live instruments? Does that make it deeper than just hearing a record on the, it makes that better connection?
Yes, I mean that has that that is one thing,
So
but
go
no,
ahead.
sorry, go ahead. Yeah,
No, the no. Yeah.
the rebelling thing, right? That's really interesting. Um, Again, I can make a very long uh, answer to this. I'll try to make it slightly short. I'm sorry, but I think first of all, my parents divorced when I was very small, so I actually lived with my mother for most of the time, and she's not a musician. She could have been, and she was close to being one, but she did something else in the end. Um, so I think actually it was a bit. I got a really nice guitar teacher in Belgium that I got excited about, and then I saw my father, but we would do other stuff. And then at one point, he started introducing me to jazz, and I think I was like 13 or 14. And then I got really excited about that, but I had like some other phases where I was doing other stuff. But I think somehow it probably was still in the back of my ears, listening to it when I saw him. And I think also like the rebellious thing, maybe my rebellion with my father has come quite late in life, probably because I didn't wasn't with him all the time as a kid. So it was more when I got older, then I was like, I'm doing things this way, which is different than what you're doing. Um, and I think there's certainly some of that now. Like he is from a generation of jazz musicians. He grew up with like, I mean, we all have, but like Charlie Parker and
Mm-hmm.
George Benson and Pat Martino, and it's like lightning fast bebop lines, which I absolutely love that stuff. But then at one point I was like, well, I'm not gonna do this show offy thing, and I kind of want to do something completely different because my dad was very good at all that bebop stuff, and I wanted to sort of like um, make music that was a lot about more like about the collective than about like maybe the soloist. And so I think I had a bit of rebellious spirit with me there. But I mean, we're both jazz musicians, and I love what he does, and the other way around. So maybe not a complete rebellion, a small one. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like I, when you're having that experience, and especially in your case, in divorce or something like that, there's the that connective tissue is kind of separated. So, you're getting one
Mm.
experience and then another experience rather than the collective conscious of it all being together, right? And did Grandpa play a big role in this?
Uh, yeah. In I think he. Yeah, he did. He did in. But I think I just always looked up to my grandfather. He was a really cool guy, and I mean, I really love his melodies. But I think uh, I have to give a lot of credit to my father because he's the one who sat with me and taught me in the beginning all this stuff about jazz. And we would often go up to my grandfather who he's not around anymore,
Right.
but he had a house up in Gribskov, which funnily enough translates to Vulture Forest.
Ah, I
Uh,
knew there was something about that. You didn't come up
yeah.
with that name out of nowhere. I mean, it
No,
sounds
no.
cool as hell, but the fact of the matter is, I knew it
Exactly.
had something.
So that's the reason. But
Oh, great.
yeah,
Wow. Oh, cool.
yeah, we would be up in his house, and he was almost deaf, so we could play loud music, two guitars till 3 in the morning, and we would do that any summer or like long breaks I had. We could keep on doing that without
Nice.
stopping, and it doesn't get like those are some of my most fond memories. Yeah.
On a human level, you're marked as the chief songwriter for just about everything except one track. What sparks the creativity? Is it visual? Does it come from within? Is it books? Is it poetry, like in your family? Or is it
Mm.
something else? Now, obviously, you when you talked about on a human level, you said the birth of your son, that time and that that anxiety. Although it doesn't play out completely like that on a human level, but I get the idea on a human level, right? Because that's the
Mm-hmm.
beauty of life, right? It's such a human thing. Go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah. So basically, what you said. I mean, like emotions. Like if I'm sadness or joy and stuff like that is a great vantage point to write. And then I think what I do a lot is sometimes a melody will sort of appear out of the blue in my head, or like maybe not like an entire melody, but let's say 4 or 5 notes or something, and then I run over, get my iPhone or something, just to record those 5 6 notes or whatever it is. uh, and then often like that can happen anywhere, like in the supermarket or whatever, so it's not always that I have the ability to continue it, but then I record
Mhm.
it, and then I leave it there kind of, and then I return to it and finish it, and then I can feel kind of like the fact that there is some time that passes is really nice, because then if I still like, I think it's a strong idea when I re-listen, which sometimes a lot of time can pass. I tried where I found something that was like 4 months old, and then I was like, "Oh, this is really good. Why did I not do something with this?" And then
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
so I kind of do it like in a step part process, and sometimes I sit down just to write, which isn't so often. I'd like to do it even more, but when I do that, I kind of try to also sit with my guitar and forget everything I know. So just kind of like really fool around, um, because when I think too much, then I start to do stuff that I have heard before, or
Hmm.
my own stuff, like something like that. Yeah. So I try to forget that I can play guitar.
Yeah, we're gonna
Yeah.
get to that in a later question because that's always something when I write novels and stuff. I don't read the stuff I'm writing, right? Because then all of a sudden I'm regurgitating somebody else's stuff. You and yourself regurgitating your own, right? Or something you
Yeah.
heard when you're playing with the other individuals in the band, in the trio or whatever. Does songwriting always start with you? I mean, considering there's one song written by uh, uh, another individual in the Red Gazelle trio. I mean, these other artists are coming in, Sorensen and them. Who do they do they already know, or are they improving or bringing something?
Yeah. I mean, they're all bringing a tremendous amount of stuff, and also like the bass player who wrote the second to last tune on the record. He he also writes really really nice stuff. Um, I think I just it happens that I write a lot of stuff, so in the end, most of my stuff comes up, not because we don't
Not because it
choose
wasn't a collaborative
stuff of
process,
others.
right? No, I get that. I mean,
Exactly,
it's
exactly.
yeah, and you know what? It's there's like a polite jazz realm, right, where it just says that's all right. Your name, it doesn't matter to me. Just what matters is the music. Whereas in rock and all that shit, well, who wrote that and who did that, and
Yeah,
it's yeah.
definitely. But I think it's like, I mean, it's still like it's my melodies, except for that one track by Peter,
Hmm.
and I have, but I try to come in with it. Sometimes I have an idea of like, let's say I never write the drums. I have to do this, or like, and this is kind of common in jazz, is that you get like a lead sheet which has like the harmonies, and then it has the melodies, and then everything else is up to the players. Uh, so like, I think a nice example is that groove that I ended up being really happy with in Unfiltered Serenity, the third track on the album, which has like a doom doom dooga 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 doom doom, like this kind of thing. Like this is not me at all that came up with that idea. I had like this idea of a really slow kind of like ya da dee da do dee do do do, like kind of like a ballad, and then and Simon took all the he knows all these different really cool African, like from going to Mali he has like a lot of really cool ideas that are totally different than something that I maybe had thought
And
about,
he heard it
and then it
differently.
turns it, yeah, and that's why I love not to say too much, because like I'm not a bass player or a drummer or a saxophone player or a trumpet player, so I have a tremendous amount of respect for the musicians that I work with, and they have amazing ideas. So I want to encourage them doing what they do best, and get really surprised when it does something different than what I had expected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the conservatory. This is something the United States doesn't understand. I'm pretty sure. So did you always know you were going to go to the conservatory to study music?
No, I didn't. I didn't know that always. I there's like a really long answer to this. I'll try to make it. I'll make it short. Um, um, my I think I had an idea like in high school. I was already playing like a ton, and I loved it. And then I happened to be very good at mathematics, but I didn't love it. It wasn't like a big passion. It was something I really liked to do, but like there's things you like to do and you're good at, and then there are like passions. But I think a part of me thought that because my father, he has been doing a ton of odd jobs throughout his life. Sometimes to get food on the table, and sometimes he had to do it so much that it took up a lot of space for him to actually do music. So I think I kind of thought that I had figured everything out, like you do when you are in high school, very young.
Yep.
And I think also, in a sense, my father maybe contributed a bit to this, in the sense that I had this idea of, okay, I could study mathematics, and then I could make some money by spending less time, and then have more time to music. Like that was the idea. So I start, and then in Denmark, it's a kind of like we are fortunate enough to have um, free education. So like you can choose an education and stop, and then do something else. There's a lot of possibilities. But then, anyways, make this story a bit shorter. I was studying there, and really what I was doing was putting in the minimum amount of effort, and then just playing music all the time.
Ah.
And then you even get government money to study. So I could use that as well. I didn't have to work. Um, so I just played a ton of music, and I was fortunate enough to live in this big collective of people studying all different things, and there were musicians there. So I found people to play with, and I had really nice people around me. I also met my wife there. But then,
Oh.
while studying math, I visited one of my high school friends, who, again, I went to high school, I lived in Belgium. That's another story. Uh, but he was in London studying at the Conservatory, Guildhall School of Music. And I think I hadn't seen him for like almost a year or something. And then we played together again. We would play all the time in high school. And it's sort of, I think it just was kind of like a wake up call for me, because he had improved so much, and I had played a ton, but I could see what the school had sort of done for him. So that gave me like a ton of respect for conservatories in general. And I think the other thing I realized was that, you know, I I just don't have, you know, I'd rather just learn to live off as little money as possible and just do
Mm.
music all the time and make it work, because I think I just figured out that I just didn't have you know, in order to be as serious about it as I wanted to, there was no room to do anything else. So I really wanted to go all in, and I'm very happy with that uh, decision. And so and then I started in Amsterdam, and that was just really I learned a ton. And I think conservatories, what the main thing that they do actually is, it's not like you're done with school when you leave. It's more like you get a nice set of um, things that you can sort of move on with. Like how to practice and what to practice, and you get introduced to a ton of stuff. And then once you're done with school, then you can sort of go on and really figure out what is it you want to do. Like, and what is it that is important to you. Um, so I feel like I'm still in school in that sense, and always will be, and that's the joy of it as well.
Yeah, well, they kind of taught you how to still be in school, to learn from everything, right? That's the toolbox.
Exactly.
Your
Exactly.
statement is absolutely beautiful that states, I had to learn to live off less. I think if more
Yeah.
people took that approach just to their career and their life, they would be a lot happier. They'd be a lot more productive. They'd be a lot more creative. They're just too consumed with, I have to have the nice house. I have to have this. I have to have Starbucks
Hmm.
every day. It's just, is that a Nordic thing?
Um, Maybe to a certain extent, but I
Okay.
think also it's just like but only to a certain extent. I think also it has just to do with uh, maybe also like a generational thing. I think like a lot of
Okay. All right.
people my age feels like they are more interested also to have more time to do other stuff. They value time more than money. I mean, but uh, I was also lucky, kind of like my wife is a visual artist and does comics and stuff. So she's also hustling through life like me,
Mm-hmm.
and we have the same value. It's about having time to do what we love, and then maybe don't take like a lot of fancy vacations with expensive hotels, and I think that I'm very happy, because it would be more tricky if you had two different sets of values that you had to juggle.
Yeah,
And
that's tough. Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
and I think also like if I lived, let's say, in the States, or really, I mean, like a lot of places outside, we have like a really nice, a lot of governmental support possibilities for, like, we don't have to pay for childcare and stuff like that so much.
Hmm.
And that makes it possible as well. I think it would be a lot harder if
Yeah,
it
you
was the
guys haven't
other
made
way
everything
around.
into an industry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 So so that has helped a lot. Yeah.
All right. So speaking of helped a lot. What about this guy, Jakob Bro? How does he come
Mm,
into this picture? Uh, you know, he tell me.
yes. I think it was actually doing conservatory that I got started to get really excited about his music. Maybe like in my first or second year or something. And no, actually, that's not true. I saw him before that as well.
Oh, okay.
Um, and got in contact with him and had some lessons with him. And I actually haven't had that many. I think I had like four or something. But those four lessons, they really did a lot, um, because I think I was just really inspired. I mean, still am, by his kind of like a guitar. Like a lot of people associate it with an instrument that is like about like lightning fast solos and doing all this crazy stuff, and that can be really amazing. But he really has this less is more approach, and
Mm-hmm.
kind of opened my eyes up to, I think, the first lesson I had with him. I came in with a super difficult song and wanted to do all this stuff, and he was like, "Yeah, but like, maybe I'm just gonna play two chords, and then you do something with that, like really simplifying everything, and see if you can make music with that, and then let's do all the difficult stuff afterwards." And I think that really stuck with me. Um, and I and it continued to do so also kind of at the conservatory, where I had, I mean, just some really like Jesse van Gola and Renia Bas are just like really amazing guitar players, and the other ones I had as well. Um, but they are just virtuosic players, and they can do kind of like anything on the instrument, and then it was also really cool to have someone on the other side where it was all like it really wasn't so much about the guitar, but like about the overall kind of music in a sense. So I think that was really cool to have those worlds, and I when I play, I also try to incorporate all of what I've learned. So do something, like I don't want to. There's one Jacob Rowe, and this, and I want to take all the different stuff that I learned, and kind of use them together in different ways. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so you're in the conservatory. You've got Red Gazelle trios going on at the time.
Yeah.
Jacob Bro, Vulture Forest, I think, comes in at the end of the conservatory, maybe. Um, what how do you can't say no to anything? I mean, you're just doing it all at that point. You're all in, right? So how do you make time? You I don't know what's my question here. It's I mean, if he calls, and you're doing all these things and you're doing something currently, do you go to if he says let's go record for ECM? Do you go
Yes,
regardless?
I think
Yeah, you go, right?
anyone calling and asking if I want to record with ECM, I would be very happy to go. Definitely. Yes.
Yeah.
And you
So
can,
so
anyone listening out on ECM who wants to record, and just give me a call. I'm very happy to come. I mean, I think there's just so much great music being released on ECM. Oh yeah, I guess yes, I don't say no to any music that I think is exciting. Like in some way. Um, I but I think I have started a bit with projects that I'm the leader on, uh, not to do too many at once after getting a son. So then I would prefer to, if I do something, then to lead it together with other people, or to be more. I've been like the main guy in most of the stuff I've done. So like now I'm also really looking into doing more stuff as a sideman, where I can just show up and interpret the music, and then go home afterwards, and they have to worry about all the stuff about sort of getting it out into the world. Um,
it's great. I mean, um, so what kind of guitars are you using? Why maybe? And what haven't you used that you'd like to use, and how much of it's being augmented in pedal and then production? Because, like you said, you'd recorded so much, even had acoustic parts. Um, how did
mm-hmm.
the technical techniques change jazz?
Yeah. So what I wanted to say was, yeah, I have a thin line Telecaster, so like it's semi hollow, which is not the one I had for the On a Human Level recording. I sold that one, which was an American Pro Telecaster, not super expensive, or I guess, I mean, expensive enough, but not like super fancy. I was very happy with it, and I'm kind of like a one guitar kind of person.
Okay.
in the sense that I like the one that I really like to use now. I'll keep working on that because I'll keep on thinking, oh, I can make it sound even better if I just do this, I do this, and then maybe one day I will fall over another guitar, and then I'll be like, oh, now this is the one that I want to do everything on, and I mean, I'm not sure what the reason is. I also really love playing acoustic guitars and stuff. I think it's just um, I just get sucked into the world of the one guitar, and like now I want to keep on working on getting that to sound better, and what can I do with it, because there's so many possibilities uh, that I don't really feel the need to also use other guitars, because the variables on one are like insane already.
Okay.
um,
So
yeah,
you show
but I
up to the
really,
gig. You show up to the gig with one guitar.
oh yes, every time.
That's
Yes.
that's awesome. That's awesome. I always,
Yeah.
you always see these musicians and they got like six and seven and roadies jumping on stage and changing it out, and it's yeah. Why not just one? I always wondered that. I don't play guitar, but
Mm,
acoustically, I
yeah.
could see that, if you're Neil Young and you've got a lower, part to it that you're playing the bass line on or something of that nature, and you change the strings. I get that idea. But so on acoustically,
Yeah.
are you 50-50 comfortability, or do you with everything, or is the acoustic more
Um,
work?
yeah, acoustic is, I mean, it's slightly more work, I would say, for sure, because again, I just play on the thin line Telecaster that I
Yeah.
have all the time. So I do feel that um, it could be cool to do like for the album. There are a lot of acoustic guitar parts, but like I said earlier, they were recorded before, so I wouldn't. So usually they're like two guitar parts happening at once. So I wouldn't be able to play the acoustic part and the electric part at once. Then I would have to hire another guitarist, and that's
Yeah.
another hire that you need to pay back. So it doesn't always happen. Also, like the Copenhagen way. When I play in Copenhagen, I have one guitar on my back, and then I have my bike, and it has like a really nice little plastic box that can fit a Fender Junior Pro amp, uh, like that one down
Okay.
there, and then I can just get to the gig like that. So it's very easy, and then when I have to go abroad, it's also like it's really nice just to have one
It's
guitar.
compact.
Uh, Yeah, exactly. I like that.
Yeah, and you got to pay to travel with that, right? So you have to check it. You got to pay for it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. And then sometimes you're lucky to know people in other countries that you can borrow stuff from. So that's really nice. There's like a support each other when people are coming here. They can borrow something, or
Uh,
vice versa.
right.
And then I have my pedals as well, and I have. So I don't know if you want me to talk a bit about those as
Well, I
well.
mean,
Or...
it's why not? Because it's is it the newest thing in jazz? Really? I mean, people used to just play, and that was what they had. Now you can make a
Mm,
guitar sound like a violin. You know.
yeah, that's true. I think Bill Frisell, he was like one of the pioneers with that. Like he had a lot of really cool sounds, and he took a lot from rock and roll and Jimi Hendrix and everything. And so that for me was very inspiring. And Jacob Bro does it too, and of course he's been inspired by Bill Frisell as well, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
And now Kurt Rosenwinkel, he has like all this. His sound is very almost synth like now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so a lot of players are using it, and I was really into that. And I try to limit the amount of pedals still, because I kind of like the same answer with the guitars, that the more knobs I have to dial, the more stuff I have to think about, and I like to kind of focus in. So I have like a delay pedal, and then I have like a Strymon delay pedal, and then I have a reverb pedal, a TC Electronic, and then I have like a drive pedal, and I usually just use that to kind of get the sound of like a tube amp that's turned up like really loud, without having to turn it up really loud, because that's not always appropriate. So it gets like a
Right.
warmer sound, um, and uh, and then sometimes I use a freeze pedal, which is kind of like the sustain pedal on a piano. You know, you play a note and then you press the pedal, and then the note can go on as long as you want, and you lift your foot, and then the note disappears.
Okay.
So that's kind of cool. And then I have just like a looper pedal that I usually just use for like the more ambient kind of dreamy stuff. If I want to make like some weird ambient noises in the background, then it has some cool functions like you can record something and then it plays it in reverse or like an octave higher, so it sounds like bells and stuff like that. I think for the album I just used that on the Antidote.
Yes, there was definitely. I mean, there was ambient
Yeah,
in this
yeah,
record. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
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 and I'm
yeah.
sure you've used it in other things. Vulture Forest.
Yeah, as well.
Yeah,
Definitely,
yeah.
definitely. But my path is kind of like a, now I'm going. I like to have pedals that I can just turn on and not worry so much
And
about.
not
So I
work.
still
Yeah,
work with like one sound and don't get too much sucked into the pedal world, which is a great world, but then you get sucked out of the guitar world a bit. And
nice. That's a
yeah.
great. I love how you state that. Um,
Mm.
in the jazz scene, do you follow it, or is that like the idea of like you can't go there because you're creating, and do you go
Mm.
do you go somewhere else? You know, you know.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think I I had a period where I didn't listen as much to music as I wanted to. Um, Kind of also because there's just so much, and like you said, also like you can get kind of sucked into like one thing, and you want to do your own thing. Um, so when I listened, which seems very egocentric, but it's not at all. But I listened a lot to recordings of myself,
Right.
but like recordings of like rehearsals and stuff, and then I would use that to be like, oh, I'm doing this there. I don't really like that sound, or
Mm-hmm.
at that moment, like I've started uh, seeing music a lot about like how to be in the moment all the time. So like if I do something where I'm like, am I doing this to prove something, or because I think I should do it, or am I doing it because this is what feels right in the moment? That's the decisions I want to make 100% of the time. And of course, it's kind of like a curve, getting closer and closer to that, but you never eventually get there. So it was like a really educational thing, also really difficult. Like I don't always love listening to those things because I hate when it doesn't sound like I want it to. So I would go on like in the conservatory, I would go on long walks, which made it a lot easier for me to listen to myself and without
Gotcha.
being yeah, in a bad mood when I didn't like it. But now I've really tried to listen more and to listen, like we talked about, really broad. You know, like get away from all the stuff that I've listened a lot to, which is like, you know, like Kurt Rosenwinkel and Bill Frisell and Jacob Rowe and some of these players who are of course amazing, and I love it. And but not to get trapped into the algorithm of you listen to one thing. I mean, this happens, I think, for professionals, and anyone can get sucked into the algorithm. I'm glad that it showed you my stuff,
Yeah.
but
Well,
you
it
never
knows that
know.
I'm all over the place. So
Yeah,
it's good for, I wish more people were all over the place, but I mean there's channels out there that's all they are is one way or another, and I can't, I mean I don't have all this, without that. But getting to you, and I, we talked about Regazelle Trio, we talked about Vulture Forest. You've got another project, and I would butcher the name. So why don't you go into that, because exciting, because I think this year, yes, it'll be
yeah,
out.
this year.
Okay, go
Mm-hmm.
ahead.
Yeah, so it's called Vejslev, Brunbjerg, Elhøj. Very, I mean, the name is just the three last names of the three of us, the bass player and the drummer. So it's a trio again. And this project is really different than like Vulture Forest and Red Gazelle and also Vejslev Exploration Band in that it's just standards. And it came to be in a quite fun way where I had these two musicians that I love to play with, and we would play together maybe once a week or once every other week. And we had a concept called late night sessions, where we would come in late in the evening, and we sit and play from 8 till like 2 in the morning or something. And it's just a complete kind of playground vibe, so we could try out anything, like we were not afraid of sounding, uh, like getting into too deep waters. We kind of were almost moving towards the stuff that we couldn't play or make work. And that was like, we learned so much for that. So we never really thought about that this was a project that had to come out, or like it was not the main goal of the project, was not to play a ton of gigs with it, like, because all of us had a lot of other projects that we played a lot of concerts with, so we were busy with this. So it was kind of like a workshop going back to school. And then in that sense it made sense to play all these standards, um, um, because they were like kind of like an empty canvas that we had to sort of make sound like us, which is really difficult in the sense that when I write a song, it's already before anyone has played a note, it's me who has written it. But if we play a song by Thelonious Monk, there's all the recordings that he has done, and they are amazing. And then there are like 100 other truly amazing recordings of it, and they're all in your head all the time while you're playing. So like, how do you make that sound like kind of our sound? And that was really, really, really fun for us to work with that, and really difficult as well. And I mean,
Oh, are they that familiar? I mean, is it like oh my gosh, now I'm gonna go blank. Do, 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 do. You can't make that sound like you. It's already oh my god, I can see the cover. What's the guy's name? Uh how bad is that?
uh,
Oh, horrendous.
you never have to be feel bad about not remembering a certain name with me, because I am awful at
A
it, and I would
quartet. I can oh god.
yeah.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
terrible. Um I mean, Thelonious Monk, what song?
Yeah, I mean, like, so we have a recording of Monk's Dream. I mean,
Okay.
I might not give away all the titles that we are
Right. But
playing
you
on the
said okay,
album,
so
but
don't. You don't have to, but I heard punk raw energy was in the press release kind of thing you had developed.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
How does I'm like, when I saw that I'm like, okay, something's going on here because that's not
yeah.
standard.
Right, 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 right. Yeah, and again, also that's hard to say, right? Because for me, like, Thelonious Monk, he was he had the punk spirit. The way he writes music
Yeah.
is like, it's kind of like, it's in a sense the melodies are super simple, which again, going back to the whole Nordic thing, there's a reason why I love it. And then like the most difficult, nonsensical, sometimes crazy harmonies that you sometimes almost have to ignore in order to really play the tunes. They're really built on the melody, which is fun. um yeah, the punk energy, I think it's just like, like anything goes. You can try out anything, and it can go in any direction. But it's like, it can go punk direction, but it could also go like super Nordic, like, so we try to keep it really open like that, like that it's not one thing. And we talked a ton about what was the one thing, but I think the one thing was the playground, like the sense that we could try out these songs in a ton of different ways, and then like hoped eventually that our own way of playing on our instruments would kind of shine through in what we did. Um, and
And you
I
go from a
mean,
trio to a quintet.
yeah, that's the thing. We have three amazing guests. I should maybe say just a short. Maybe that's, or it could be a bit fun to tell. So we were just in our little rehearsal space, minding our own business, doing this. And then I had like one slot at the Copenhagen Winter Jazz Festival, where like, oh, this could actually be fun to play with these guys. And then I also have a lot of guitar students that I teach and stuff, and I have a newsletter, and I invite people. And then my one of the students comes with his father, who he really enjoys the concert, and he's like, oh, I'm retired investment guy, and actually, you know what, I want to make a record with the three of you. And then suddenly we were like, oh, we didn't really believe it, but it turned out it was a thing. And last summer we recorded, and we got to also get some guests as well, and it was really amazing and a very fast process, because usually like the funding and figuring everything out, it takes a long time, like with Red Gazelle. So we um but that was, yeah, I just think it was quite amazing that you can still find people like that, like kind of like almost like going back to Baroque times, where one person was like giving some money to Mozart, so he had some time to write a symphony or something, or like an emperor of Austria or something.
Yeah.
You have to find these small magical people around there.
Yeah,
Sometimes
well, I'm
that can
telling you, if
happen.
you're in the U.S. and you're on the New York State side of things, and then you're coming to town or whatever, you can stay here. We'll do a meal to music with you guys playing live or something like that. But,
That sounds amazing. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely US is in the back of my head all the time. I think
yeah,
it's just give it like 3 4 years, and then I will have be able to set enough concerts that everyone can get properly paid, and the flight tickets and everything.
yeah, big undertaking. Yeah.
Um, yeah, exactly. But
So,
um,
due to
yeah,
our time constrictions, I asked the following questions of any guest I have on the show. So, good luck. All right.
yes, yeah,
3 albums you'd take to hell.
yeah. I it's I'm guessing Hell would be sort of like more the punk kind of vibe. I'm not, but maybe this is up to my interpretation completely. I think maybe like Out to Lunch by Eric Dolphy could be a nice one.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and maybe like Ornette Coleman, Shape of Things to Come. That also has
Ooh.
like some rowdy,
Mm-hmm.
rowdy stuff going on, and yeah, but also still they still have like amazing melodies in there, and then they balance it, like, because I do like free jazz, but often I like it when it's not always completely free, that it sometimes there's like a melody or something that can be used as like a starting off point. I think that's really cool. And
Yeah.
these records were just so influential. Uh,
What was that? Sorry.
just like these records have had such a big impact on everything else. You like
Oh yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
hear them in everything else. Um, and then maybe like the last one would be just, I think, uh, just because it was one of the ones that I heard quite early on, um, and that always has like a strong emotional kind of thing, like when it's back from when you were a teenager or something, but that I still really love. Is John McLaughlin's Extrapolation. I don't know if you know this record, but
I
it's
know
him and
John
a,
McLaughlin
yeah,
pretty well. That album is has I have not gotten to. I got trapped in his collaborations in Mahavishnu
mm,
Orchestra and with
oh yeah,
Al Di Meola and that Saturday Night thing, which is like one of the greatest acoustic albums
yeah.
ever made.
I
Um,
love that stuff as well,
yeah, yeah.
definitely.
But he might be at the pinnacle of like one of the greatest guitarists of all time, if not number two or number three. There are times where I would put him at number one. I know that's sacrilege to the Jimi Hendrix thing, but Jimmy didn't live as long as John McLaughlin, and try to come up with as much stuff as John has to come up with.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's done so much stuff, and he writes really amazing music as well. And but this album, you should check it out because it's really cool. It has a lot of really free elements. It's with a lot of English people that, of course, off the top of my head, I can't remember, but it has a really cool balance as well between the free stuff and the melody stuff.
Well,
So
that's like me. I couldn't remember Dave Brubeck. That's who
yeah,
I was trying
okay,
to
yeah,
think of when you just did that. I
right,
remember Dave Brubeck, right?
yeah,
Do,
yeah, yeah.
do, 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 do.
Exactly.
So all right, so you took him to hell. 3 albums you'd take to heaven.
Okay, well, I think then I would probably. I mean, again, if you ask me on another day, I might say something different. I
Hmm.
try to always keep on being on the lookout of new stuff and not re-listening too much. But I mean, going back to this, like first time I heard something that was like, whoa, what is this? You know, like the first time you listen to like an artist that you really love, like that album always has like, for me at least, something. There's something special about that. So like the first time I listened to Kurt Rosenwinkel, one of his albums was East Coast Love Affair, and
Okay.
that was just like, how can you play guitar like that? How is this possible? Like, how do you play it? It sounds like a piano trio almost. You know, like how do you fill it out with all these harmonies and his amazing. I mean, like he also has this thing with he makes amazing melodies. You know, he's virtuosic, which is great, but he does it with these amazing melodies as well. You know, like so it's just like I still really love that album, and I it's hard for me to decide three, but I think maybe Jacob Rowe Spelledering album again was just like
Okay.
one of the first times I was introduced to his music, and yeah, it just also so beautiful, and at the same time, like getting introduced to him with Bill Frisell as well, and Lee Konitz with and just a really beautiful album. And then I mean the third slot, it could go to a lot of players, but let's say Bill Frisell, Strange Meeting.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny how you went the way you did. Sycophant was on the program, and he was trying to sneak hard rock and metal into heaven. He had Slayer on his list, and you're
Yeah.
kind of playing within the guidelines of I'm not going to offend anybody. I'm not going to try to contraband it. It's not.
You could switch them up easily, like go with the three on ones down to hell and the other three
Yeah.
to heaven, sure thing. Like, I mean, why not?
Oh my. We should do this every month. Just but good luck with your son and family and the music. I don't think you need luck there. The family and the raising of children, that's super hard. But you seem like you have the right personality for that. I love the jazz. I love how you go about things and the people you put yourself with. I guess I have this like bleeding heart right now for Nordic and Denmark and Norway, and I don't know, just something about that area. Sweden, they got this. It's funny you had that water divide, right? And I think they're just doing this doom metal stuff, and they're like the virtuosos of that stuff. And yeah, I kind of miss. Um, I get my mindset over there quite a bit, but it was an absolute pleasure. I think you're. Oh my God, you're more than on a way. The people that you play with and what you represent in jazz is infinite, and you're adding to it, which is great. Is there anything else you want to shout out to or anything? You know,
No, I mean, first I just want to say thank you so much for having me on, and yeah, it was a pleasure talking to you, Mark. So thanks for that, and what you do, which is so important as well, So,
well, that was the thing. The question was how do I compare? I'm doing a jazz review, right? I don't play. I just hear it, right? And I say something
yeah.
and phrasing or lyrical or whatever, and I understand some of it. When you hear these reviews, you kind of go, "Hmm, whoa, it, how does that how do you reply to people like me that are we're trying so hard and we don't know?
I think I mean, you do in the sense that, I mean, like what you wrote about the music, I think was, you know, great, and I thought, yeah, I love your take on the album, and I think for uh, for anyone that the music resonates with and that they share how it resonates with them, that keeps the music alive. So that's
There
just
you go.
as important as
Yes.
playing it, I think. That's
I
my answer
that's what
to
I'm
that.
hoping for. That's the goal. That's the idea. I don't want to keep talking
Yeah.
about Black Sabbath. I don't want to keep talking about, you know what I mean? All great and all that, but there are people that are just pushing and doing. So everybody out there, pick up the Red Gazelle trios on a human level on Bandcamp. The link will be in the description. Not to mention, I'll send you right to his website because it has everything there that you'll need. We'll be looking forward to the new record with the trio and quintet.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say also new Red Gazelle videos coming out soon, filmed from the release concert that we did.
Oh, okay. When was
So
the release
with
concert?
the
That
two
was
guests,
what?
that was that's a good question. I think the
Was that
5th of
February?
February. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
All
yeah,
right.
exactly. Yeah. So and I just got the videos now. We're not releasing them yet, but I'm very very happy with how they turned out. So stay on the lookout for those, and we'll share it as well on our
Yeah, that's a great
story
thing to do.
Instagram stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a great thing to
definitely.
do because we can't go over there right now. You know, what I mean, we can't get on the plane and get there on time. You know, you got a little break here and then you're playing again, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. We started to book for 2026 now. Then I have a lot of concerts, but with Red Gazelle right now I think we have a little break just
Hmm.
after our release concert, and then I mean maybe already in the fall we'll start playing again. But at least we have stuff lined up for beginning of 2026. So
Good.
you have to
It's
wait a
great.
bit, but yeah.
It'll spread fast. It'll spread fast.
Yes, 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 yes.
We're on the web at beyondyourradio.com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, of course. We got articles, videos, podcasts is just around the corner, all about albums, bands, artists, just like Kristoffer here, and interviews like this. Go Beyond Your Radio with us, a real music appreciation channel. Thanks for watching and happy listening.